Helen, if you're watching this, then either we're old and watching it together and hopefully you're laughing, or you're watching it because I wasn't able to keep my promise to you by coming home.
There have been soldiers fighting in wars for almost as long as humans have been around, and every year people sacrifice their lives so that others can live freely. A lot of people leave last words that can be inspiring or just nice, but sometimes a person's last words can leave quite a haunting or eerie feeling. On today's top 10 list, I'll be covering 10 haunting last words heard by soldiers. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have Michael Ney. Michael Ney was a first duke, and he was the first prince of the Moskva, and was a French military commander in the French Revolutionary Wars, as well as the Napoleonic Wars. He was even one of the original 18 marshals of the empire that Napoleon I created. After Napoleon was dethroned and exiled in 1815, however, Michael was arrested and tried by the Chamber of Peers for treason. When the verdict was given, 137 peers voted for the death penalty, 17 voted for deportation, 5 abstained, and there was 1 single vote for acquittal. Unfortunately, this was a majority rules situation, and Michael was sentenced to death by the firing squad. On December 7th, 1815, Michael was put in front of a firing squad and he refused to wear a blindfold. He was surprisingly given the right to order the fire himself, and before doing so, these are the final words that he spoke. "Soldiers, when I give the command to fire, fire straight at my heart. Wait for the order. It will be my last to you. I protest against my condemnation. I have fought 100 battles for France and not one against her. Soldiers, fire." I couldn't imagine having to be the one to order your own death, especially when you don't want to die, so this one definitely leaves quite an eerie feeling. In our number 9 spot today, we have Pompey the Great. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. Pompey the Great is the oldest person on this list, as he was born in 106 BC and passed away in 48 BC at the age of 57. Pompey was a Roman general, and his career played a significant role in the evolution from a republic to an empire. At one point he was an ally of Julius Caesar, but they became enemies, and this is what led to Pompey's death. In 48 BC there was a civil war in which Caesar beat Pompey's army, and Pompey began to retreat to Egypt. Once he got there, he hoped that King Ptolemy would help him, but unfortunately the king feared Caesar, so instead the king invited him ashore at Pelusium, and it was there that Pompey was assassinated. Pompey's final words were to one of the assassins, and it seems as though Pompey recognized him. He said, "I am not mistaken, surely, in believing you to have been formerly my fellow soldier. Certainly being assassinated is never good, but by people you know and possibly trusted is definitely quite a dark twist." In our number 8 spot today, we have Sir Philip Sidney. Sir Philip Sidney was born in November of 1554 and was an English poet and soldier, and is one of the most prominent figures of the Elizabethan era. In 1586 he joined Sir John Norris in the Battle of Zutphen. Sorry if I said that wrong, in the fight against the Spanish, but it was during this battle that he was shot in the thigh, which would ultimately lead to his death. One of the most well-known stories about Sir Philip Sidney is when he was laying wounded next to another soldier who was also wounded. He spoke his last words to the other soldier when he was giving him his water. He said, "Take it. Thy need is greater than mine." It seems as though he must have known he was about to pass, but it also shows the kind of person he was, which seems to be a very noble person. He certainly left a legacy, considering we are still here talking about him today. In our number 7 spot today, we have Joao Kim Murat. Joao Kim Murat was a marshal of the empire and an admiral to Napoleon, and he was also the king of Naples from 1808 to 1815. A lot of people attribute his titles to the fact that he actually married Napoleon's younger sister, Caroline Bonaparte, but he is also remembered as brave and charismatic. He was also known as a fancy dresser, so he gained the nickname the Dandy King, which I love. After After the fall of Napoleon, he was captured by the forces of King Ferdinand IV of Naples and was eventually tried and sentenced to death by firing squad. When the time came, he refused a chair and a blindfold and said, "I have braved death too often to fear it." He then stood up tall and proudly and kissed a carving of the face of his wife that he had with him, and then he spoke his final words, which were, "Soldiers, do your duty, straight to the heart but spare the face. Fire." Honestly, I don't know how these people stay so calm and collected during these undoubtedly terrifying moments. In our number 6 spot today, we have Major Lloyd Williams. Major Lloyd Williams was born in 1887 and was an officer in the United States Marine Corps and passed away fighting in World War I. On June 11th of 1918, he was leading an assault and had been sent to help the French army in the Battle of Belleau Wood, which barely left anyone on their side alive. When they first arrived, they found the French retreating already, but Lloyd did not want to. When a French major told Lloyd to retreat, he told him to go to hell, which I guess I can appreciate. Later in the battle, Lloyd found himself gassed and injured by shrapnel and was down on the battlefield, severely injured. When medics approached him, he spoke his last words, which were, "Don't bother with me, take care of my good men." I obviously have no knowledge of what would have happened if they did choose to retreat when the French major suggested it, but I definitely think it is honorable that he ensured his men were tended to first. In our number 5 spot today, we have Murray Hudson. Murray Hudson was born in 1938 and was a sergeant with the Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment. On February 13th, 1974, Murray was a drill instructor and was supervising a training exercise when things really took a turn for the worst. One of the officers in training, or a non-commissioned officer who was participating in this training exercise, accidentally armed a grenade that he was about to throw. This is obviously an incredibly frightening situation and one that made the officer completely freeze. After all, what really do you do in that situation? Murray saw him freeze and realized what had happened and ordered him to throw it, which I guess is the smartest move and the thing that you would do in this situation. The officer unfortunately was still frozen and wasn't reacting, so in an attempt to save him, Murray went over and took his hand and tried to release the grenade so that he could throw it. During this process, the grenade unfortunately exploded, which took both of their lives. The final words of Murray were his directions and him saying, "Throw it, just throw it." Such a tragic event that absolutely could have been avoided. Murray was awarded the George Cross after his passing, which is the highest award bestowed by the British government for gallantry not in the presence of an enemy. In our number 4 spot today, we have Louis Joseph de Montcom. Louis Joseph was a French soldier who was born in 1712 and was commander of the forces in North America during the 7 Years' War. In September of 1759, he decided to attack the British with the forces he had instead of waiting for more people and more numbers. Many people believed that this was his greatest mistake, but he felt like if he waited, they wouldn't have been able to defeat the British. That may be true, but without waiting, the British of course still defeated the French forces. Louis was riding back to the city when he was struck by a musket shot in the back. There were 3 soldiers who helped him back to the city and to a surgeon who explained that he wouldn't be able to even make it through the night. Before his commanding officers left him for the last time, he had some not so nice words for them. His final words happened to be, "I have much business that must be attended to of greater moment than your ruined garrison and this wretched country." Considering he's talking about the country that I live in, that seems a little rude, but I can understand why he felt that way. In our number 3 spot today, we have Simon Bolivar. Simon, who is often referred to as the Liberator, was born in 1783 and was a military and political leader that led Venezuela, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Panama to their independence from the Spanish Empire. He was 47 years old in 1830 and had resigned from his presidency and was planning on heading to Europe. He even had already sent crates of his belongings, but unfortunately fell extremely ill before he was able to leave his country. On December 17th of 1830, he was about to lose his battle with tuberculosis and was extremely delirious, so his last words are actually very strange. There are some accounts that his last words were, "Damn it, How will I ever get out of this labyrinth? And other accounts say that his final words were, "Fetch the luggage, they do not want us here." Truthfully, either way, it is clear that he wasn't necessarily in his right mind, but it's also very clear that he was looking for some way out or some sort of escape. In our number 2 spot today we have John Segwick. John Segwick was born in 1813 and was a military officer and Union Army general during the American Civil War. On May 9, 1864, he and his men were at the Spotsylvania courthouse and he was directing different placements when Confederate sharpshooters, who were around 1,000 yards away, began shooting at them. This of course caused for some of John's men to duck for cover like any regular human being would when being shot at. I'm not exactly sure why, but John seemed to have been less concerned with the shots and more concerned with the soldiers taking cover, and he continued to strut around and say, "I'm ashamed of you. They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance." It was unfortunately just a few moments later that he was fatally struck by a bullet just under his left eye. His chief of staff, Martin T. McMahon, was close to him and heard his last words and tried to catch him as he fell. Medical personnel were of course called as quickly as possible, but unfortunately he never regained consciousness. In our number 1 spot today we have Alexander Procranko. In 2016, Alexander was a senior lieutenant with the Special Armed Forces of the Russian Armed Forces. He was 25 years old at the time and was fighting in the Syrian Civil War. On March 17th of 2016, during the Palmyra offensive, he found himself surrounded by ISIS militants. Not wanting to be captured alive and also bravely doing what he thought was best, he ordered an airstrike on his location. His command was slightly confused in the beginning of this order and asked him to confirm his order, and this is when Alexander spoke his final words to command. He said, "They are outside. This is the end, Commander. Thank you. Tell my family and my country I love them. Tell them I was brave and I fought until I could no longer. Please take care of my family. Avenge my death. Goodbye, Commander. Tell my family I love them." Alexander left behind his wife Katya and the child they were expecting at the time of his death. He was nicknamed the Russian Rambo after his death and was awarded the title Hero of the Russian Federation for his ultimate sacrifice. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. It's been a bit of a dark one, so I'm gonna go look at some pictures of puppies and make myself feel a little bit better. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye!